Before you scroll away, pay very close attention because what you're about to hear may explain everything that has been happening in your life recently. If things have been falling apart, if plans have been failing, if relationships have been changing, if opportunities have disappeared without explanation, this message is for you. Most people will see these events as bad luck, failure, or unfortunate timing. But what if they are completely wrong? What if the collapse you're experiencing is not a punishment but a revelation? What if the things breaking around you are exposing a dangerous trap that would have kept you stuck for years? Stay with this message until the very end, because the final truth may completely change the way you view your struggles. What you're about to discover could help you recognize why certain doors have closed, why certain people have left, and why the life you once knew no longer feels stable. There is a reason for all of it, and most people never uncover that reason until it is too late. The first thing you must understand is that not every collapse is a disaster. Some collapses are necessary. Imagine living inside a building with cracks hidden behind the walls. From the outside, everything appears stable. The structure looks strong. The rooms look beautiful. Yet deep beneath the surface, weaknesses are growing. One day, those weaknesses can no longer be ignored. The structure begins to fail. To those standing outside, it looks like destruction. In reality, it is exposure. The collapse is revealing what was already broken. The same thing happens in life. Sometimes people spend years building their identity around things that no longer serve them. They become attached to relationships that limit their growth. They stay in environments that drain their energy. They hold on to beliefs that keep them trapped in fear. Because these things become familiar, they begin to feel safe. Yet familiarity and safety are not always the same thing. This is where the dangerous trap begins. The trap is comfort disguised as security. It convinces people to remain where they are, even when they know they are meant for more. It whispers that change is too risky. It says that uncertainty should be avoided at all costs. Over time, this trap becomes invisible because it feels normal. People stop questioning it. They stop imagining a different future. They settle for a life that no longer aligns with who they are becoming. Then something unexpected happens. The life they built begins to shake. Plans stop working. Relationships change. Opportunities disappear. At first, they resist these changes because they seem painful. They try to rebuild what is falling apart. They fight to preserve what is leaving. They do everything possible to maintain the old structure. What they don't realize is that the collapse is trying to save them. The things that are leaving may be exposing limits that were holding them back. The opportunities that disappeared may have led them down the wrong path. The relationships that ended may have prevented them from becoming the person they were meant to be. What appears to be loss may actually be protection. Think about the times in your life when something ended and you felt devastated. At the time, it seemed unfair. It felt like a setback. Yet months or years later, you discovered that the ending protected you from something worse or guided you towards something better. The truth often becomes clear only after enough time has passed. Right now, many people are standing in the middle of that process. They are watching parts of their old life crumble without understanding why. They see the collapse but cannot yet see the purpose. This uncertainty creates fear because the human mind prefers familiar pain over unfamiliar possibilities. Yet growth has always required leaving something behind. Every new chapter begins with the ending of an old one. Every transformation requires a release. Every breakthrough demands that something outdated be surrendered. The danger comes when people mistake the collapse for failure. Instead of learning from the experience, they become bitter. Instead of moving forward, they try to return to what no longer fits them. They attempt to rebuild the very walls that were meant to come down. In doing so, they walk directly back into the trap they were being rescued from. Pay attention to what is happening around you. Notice the patterns. Observe what keeps leaving despite your efforts to hold on to it. Consider the possibility that these events are not random. Consider the possibility that life is revealing truths you could not see while everything appeared stable. The signs have likely been present for a long time. Small feelings of dissatisfaction, repeated frustrations, unexplained delays, a sense that something needed to change. These signs often arrive quietly before major transitions occur. Most people ignore them until circumstances become impossible to ignore. The remarkable thing about transformation is that it rarely announces itself clearly. It often arrives disguised as disruption. It looks like uncertainty before it becomes opportunity. It feels like loss before it becomes freedom. It resembles chaos before it reveals its purpose. This is why you must be careful not to judge your situation too quickly. What feels like an ending may actually be a beginning. What seems like destruction may be reconstruction. What appears to be collapse may be the removal of everything standing between you and your next chapter. The truth is that your old life may be collapsing because it can no longer contain the person you are becoming. The habits, relationships, beliefs, and limitations that once defined you are losing their power. The structure is shifting because something new is trying to emerge. And that is why this message found you today. Not to make you fear the collapse, but to help you understand it. Not to warn you about destruction, but to reveal the opportunity hidden within it. The dangerous trap is believing that every ending is a failure. The truth is that some endings are acts of protection, preparation, and transformation. The life you knew may be changing. The familiar may be disappearing. The old foundations may be cracking. But before you panic, remember this. Sometimes what is falling apart is simply making room for what was meant to arrive all along. What if the very things you are fighting to keep are the exact things that are preventing you from moving forward? This is one of the hardest truths to accept when life begins to change. When familiar routines disappear, when relationships shift, when opportunities suddenly close, the natural reaction is to assume that something has gone wrong. Most people see loss and immediately think of failure. They see change and immediately fear uncertainty. Yet there are moments when life removes things not to harm you, but to reveal what has been hidden beneath the surface all along. Your old life may be falling apart for a reason that you cannot fully see yet. What appears to be a collapse may actually be an exposure. It may be showing you the weaknesses, limitations, and false securities that have quietly shaped your life for years. Sometimes people become so comfortable with their circumstances that they stop noticing how restricted they have become. They remain in environments that drain them, maintain relationships that no longer support their growth, and follow paths that no longer align with who they are meant to be. Because these things feel familiar, they mistake them for stability. Yet true stability is not found in remaining the same forever. It is found in becoming strong enough to adapt when change arrives. There comes a point when the old structure can no longer support the future that is trying to emerge. At that moment, life begins rearranging things. The process can feel uncomfortable because it challenges everything that once felt certain. But every meaningful transformation requires space, and that space often appears only after something old has been removed. Looking back, many people eventually realized that the losses they feared most were actually the turning points that redirected their lives towards something greater. What seemed like rejection became protection. What seemed like failure became preparation. What seemed like an ending became the beginning of a completely new chapter. The collapse is not always the problem. Sometimes it is the solution. Sometimes it is the moment when life finally refuses to let you remain trapped inside a version of yourself that you have already outgrown. The collapse you fear is often the very thing that reveals what was never truly secure in the first place. Most people spend years building their lives around expectations, routines, relationships, and goals that seem permanent. They invest their energy into creating stability and predictability, believing that if everything remains the same, they will feel safe. But there is a hidden danger in becoming too attached to what is familiar. Familiarity can create the illusion that something is meant to stay forever, even when it has already served its purpose. This is why change feels so unsettling. It forces you to question what you thought was certain. It challenges the structures you depended on. It exposes weaknesses that were hidden beneath the surface. At first, this process can feel painful because it takes away the comfort of knowing what comes next. Yet discomfort does not always mean something bad is happening. Sometimes discomfort is simply the feeling of growth beginning to take place. The things that are leaving your life may not be leaving because you failed. They may be leaving because they can no longer support the person you are becoming. A relationship that once felt meaningful may start feeling restrictive. A path that once seemed exciting may no longer inspire you. An environment that once felt comfortable may suddenly feel limiting. These experiences are not always signs of loss. They can be signs of revelation. They show you what no longer belongs in your future. The challenge is that most people try to hold on to these things long after their purpose has ended. They resist change because they fear what comes after it. They focus so much on what is disappearing that they fail to notice what is being created. Yet every ending creates space for a new beginning. Every closed door directs attention toward a different opportunity. Every collapse removes something that was standing in the way of future growth. The truth is that what is breaking down may not be your life at all. It may be the false version of stability that kept you from discovering what was truly possible. Sometimes the greatest act of protection is allowing what no longer belongs to fall away, so that something stronger, wiser, and more aligned can finally take its place. One of the most dangerous traps a person can fall into is believing that comfort and security are the same thing. At first glance, they appear identical. Both make you feel safe. Both reduce uncertainty. Both allow you to avoid difficult decisions. But beneath the surface, there is a critical difference. True security helps you grow, while comfort often encourages you to remain exactly where you are. Over time, this difference becomes life-changing. Many people spend years living inside situations that no longer serve them simply because those situations feel familiar. They stay in relationships that drain their energy, jobs that limit their potential, and routines that no longer bring them fulfillment. Not because they are happy, but because they are comfortable. The fear of the unknown becomes stronger than the desire for something better. This is how the trap works. It does not force people to stay. It convinces them that staying is the safest option. Slowly, their dreams become smaller. Their expectations become lower. Their willingness to take risks begins to disappear. Without realizing it, they trade growth for predictability. The trap becomes even more powerful because it rarely feels dangerous. In fact, it often feels reasonable. People tell themselves they are being practical. They convince themselves they will make changes later. They promise themselves that a better time will come. Yet weeks become months, months become years, and the life they truly want remains out of reach. Then something begins to change. Circumstances shift, opportunities disappear. Familiar structures start breaking down. What once felt stable begins to feel uncertain. At first, this can feel frightening because it disrupts everything that was known. But sometimes this disruption is exactly what is needed. Sometimes life shakes the foundations of comfort because comfort has become a prison disguised as protection. The collapse forces people to see what they have been avoiding. It pushes them toward growth they would never have chosen on their own. Looking back, many discover that the greatest breakthroughs of their lives began when their comfort zone was removed. What felt like a setback was actually an invitation. What felt like instability was actually freedom. And what seemed like a dangerous collapse was really the moment they escaped the trap that had been holding them back for far too long. The signs have been appearing for much longer than you realize. Long before major changes arrive, life often sends subtle signals that something is shifting beneath the surface. These signals rarely come as dramatic announcements. Instead, they appear quietly through repeated patterns, recurring feelings, unexpected delays, and moments that seem insignificant at the time. Most people overlook them because they are focused on immediate responsibilities and daily routines. They assume that if something important is happening, it will be obvious. Yet some of the most important transitions in life begin with whispers rather than warnings. Looking back, many people discover that the clues were present all along. There were moments when something felt out of place. There were situations that repeatedly created frustration. There were relationships that no longer felt aligned. There were opportunities that seemed promising but never fully developed. At the time, these experiences appeared unrelated, but when viewed from a distance, they reveal a consistent pattern. They were pointing toward a truth that had not yet been fully recognized. One of the reasons these signs are easy to miss is because people naturally seek stability. They want life to remain predictable. When evidence suggests that change is approaching, the mind often tries to explain it away. It creates reasons to stay comfortable and avoid uncertainty. This resistance can make the signals seem smaller than they really are. Yet the signs do not disappear simply because they are ignored. In fact, they often become stronger over time. What begins as a feeling eventually becomes a pattern. What begins as a pattern eventually becomes a situation that can no longer be avoided. The remarkable thing about life is that it often gives multiple opportunities to notice what needs attention before major transformation occurs. The purpose of these signs is not to create fear, but to encourage awareness. They invite you to pay closer attention to your circumstances, your decisions, and the direction your life is moving. When you begin recognizing these patterns, you gain the ability to prepare rather than react. You stop seeing events as random and start understanding how they connect to a larger process. The truth is that many of the changes happening now may not have started recently at all. They may simply be the visible results of signs that have been quietly appearing for a long time, waiting for the moment when you are finally ready to see them clearly. A secret shift is happening behind the scenes even if you cannot see it yet. One of the most challenging parts of any transformation is that the most important changes often occur long before there is visible evidence of them. People naturally trust what they can see, touch, and measure. When nothing appears to be happening, they assume that progress has stopped. They look at their circumstances and conclude that they are stuck. Yet reality is often far more complex. Some of the greatest changes begin in places hidden from view. Just as roots grow underground before a tree rises above the surface, many life transitions start developing long before they become obvious to anyone else. This hidden process can feel frustrating because it requires patience. You may see old parts of your life fading away while the new chapter has not yet fully arrived. You may find yourself standing between what was and what will be, unable to clearly identify where you belong. During this stage, it is easy to become discouraged. It is easy to believe that the uncertainty means something has gone wrong. Yet uncertainty is often a sign that something is being rearranged. The future is taking shape in ways that are not yet visible. Opportunities are forming. Lessons are being learned. Perspectives are changing. Strength is developing. These things may not produce immediate results, but they are creating the foundation for what comes next. Many people abandon their journey during this stage because they mistake silence for inactivity. They assume that because they cannot see movement, no movement exists. In reality, the most significant preparation often happens behind the scenes. Looking back, people frequently realize that periods they once viewed as stagnant were actually the seasons that prepared them for their greatest breakthroughs. The delays taught patience. The challenges built resilience. The uncertainty encouraged growth. Everything was contributing to a larger purpose that could only be understood later. This is why it is important not to judge your current situation too quickly. What feels like confusion today may eventually reveal itself as preparation. What appears to be a pause may actually be progress. The truth is that a secret shift may already be underway, quietly moving pieces into place, creating opportunities, and preparing a future that could not exist without the changes happening right now beneath the surface of your life. Here is a powerful conclusion and ending for your speech. As we reach the end of this message, take a moment to reflect on everything you've heard. The struggles, delays, endings, disappointments, and unexpected changes you've experienced may not be signs that your life is falling apart. They may be signs that your life is being rearranged. What feels like a collapse today could be the very thing that protects you from a future that was never meant for you. What appears to be an ending may actually be the beginning of a chapter far greater than anything you've imagined. The greatest trap is not the collapse itself. The greatest trap is believing that the collapse means you have failed. It is believing that every closed door is a rejection, every delay is a punishment, and every loss is permanent. But life often works in ways that cannot be understood in the moment. Sometimes what leaves your life is creating space. Sometimes what breaks is exposing weakness. Sometimes what disappears is making room for something stronger, healthier, and more aligned with your purpose. Remember the lessons from this message. Your old life may be falling apart for a hidden reason. The collapse you fear may be revealing a truth you need to see. Comfort can become a prison disguised as safety. What is breaking down may be making room for what belongs. The signs have been present longer than you realized. And even now, a secret shift may be happening behind the scenes, preparing opportunities and possibilities that are still beyond your view. Do not allow fear to convince you that uncertainty is your enemy. Some of life's greatest blessings arrive disguised as disruption. Some of the most important transformations begin during seasons of confusion. Trust that not everything needs to make sense immediately. Trust that clarity often arrives after courage. Trust that what is meant for you will not be lost simply because the path has changed. If your old world feels unstable right now, do not panic. Stand firm, stay aware, keep moving forward. The chapter that is ending has already taught you what it was meant to teach. The chapter that is beginning is waiting for you to step into it. And remember this powerful truth as you leave today. When life removes what no longer belongs, it is not always taking something from you. It may be preparing to give you something far greater. Your old life is not collapsing to destroy you. It is collapsing so the person you are becoming can finally rise. Thank you for listening. Stay strong, stay wise, and never be afraid of the endings that lead to your greatest beginnings.